Hello and welcome to Heartbeat. This week I had the chance to sit down with James McIvor and discuss what it is like being a pro-life lecturer in film and television. William will bring us the news from home and abroad, and Peter will give us his view on buffer zones. James, thank you so much for joining me today. What inspired you to become a pro-life lecturer in TV and film?
What inspired me? Well, obviously my faith, being a Christian, and it's something that I stumbled into, to be honest, where you're unaware of what's really going on in society, and I happened to come across a programme on YouTube relating to it, and it sort of opened my eyes up to the fact of what I wanted to do, and it sort of guided me down that path.
And what led you to being pro-life? Were you always pro-life?
Not pro-life in the sense of being part of a movement or an organisation. I've always had that within me, since I always believed that, yes, you should always stick up for people and defend people.
Of course.
And I always remember my mum, she loved children. And I always used to wonder why she loved children so much. I've now taken that off her, where there's a deep passion for children within me. And when I first experienced what was happening, coming from where I came from, we didn't hear about things like that. But obviously when you get in the circles and you start getting, and I realised, no way they're doing that, they can't be doing that. And then when I got involved in the SBUC and I seen what was happening, it was like, wow, that's no way. And what else can you do but respond to that? And obviously being a Christian, you've got to do it in a loving, caring way. You've got to remember that they're not our enemies and things like that. We're there to sort of help and get involved that way. So that's how I got involved.
Fantastic. And how does your pro-life beliefs influence your TV and media work?
It's very difficult when you work with an organisation that don't hold those views or those values, and they have a totally open, everyone's equal and all those sort of things. But when it comes to certain things, they're not equal. Or maybe just the way you feel within these places, where there's been obviously examples of people who've spoken up and lost their jobs and things like that. Not that I'm afraid of that, but you know that you're going to be isolated, you're going to be all the things you normally go through when you start being different to other people. So it's not encouraged. And to be honest, I don't really speak about it because you don't know what the other person, where they're coming from. And no one ever brings it up, ever.
Yeah. And yeah, you mentioned you had a Christian union on campus. How did that go for you? And did you face censorship with it?
Well, when I first went to the college, obviously being a passionate follower of Jesus, I realised that there was nothing at all in the college. And I thought, wow, so that's why I started that up. Yeah. But the college, to be honest, have been all very helpful. They've never done anything at all on that way, because we stick to the gospel and we stick to talking about Jesus. So the message is always about love. So it's not about controversial things. Because we don't want people leaving that room and saying, oh, that Jesus, they're talking about this or that. Because you've got to separate, obviously, the gospel from the SBUC work. Otherwise,
yes, yeah, it's different, yeah.
But we're desperate to talk about it. We're desperate to, but that's not the sort of, because God does say use wisdom. So that's not the place, because all you're going to do is get controversy. And from that, nothing good's going to come of it. You're not going to make any difference. You're just going to...
Yeah, I think that's so important as well, praying for wisdom and asking for that wisdom. Because, you know, how do you balance personal beliefs with academic neutrality when you're teaching? And I think that really needs to be given from above sometimes. Would you agree with that, or what has been your experience?
Well, obviously, the Bible teaches you that we're growing in faith and we're growing in grace, and that you're always faced with that challenge of what you really want to say. But when God says, no, you can't say it that way. Every good thing comes from God. So when you act in a loving, caring manner, that you're doing what God commands you to do. And that includes not just fighting for young babies and things like that. It's anything you do as a Christian. But it doesn't mean you shy away from getting involved in things. I'm not saying that, but because Christians are already prepared not just Christians, other people as well, to fight for what they feel is right.
You have to be ready to give an answer for what you believe in as well. And obviously, as Christians, we do that. Share the truth and love. I think that's important. And going back to the pro-life theme of film and media, do you see many films or TV shows with that pro-life angle in it?
To be honest, no. And that's why it's very surprising and very encouraging as well when, obviously, the last youth conference I've seen, I've said before, I know this is not related to in a way, but when I've seen all those young people, because to be honest, sometimes you can get a bit, not afraid, but a bit, but when you watch these young people gathering together, and when you go back to what we see, you're hoping that young people might come through and make films. They might start producing stuff. And because I'll be honest, if I allowed that in my class, there'd be an uproar.
Oh, okay.
There's certain subjects you're like, oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
And I don't want to mention other ones, but that's one of them where, because you don't know who in your class has actually had an abortion.
For sure, yes.
And that's why it becomes now, you're stepping over the line away from your job. And then when you go to TV, you go to the media, people won't touch that. Because as you know, the way the media works, it's all about getting people to watch your films, money and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's obviously being part of the SPUC, you'll see it where you want to see it. I'll come watch programmes you're in on YouTube, so I can go there.
YouTube is great for sure for seeing different pro-life themes as well in media or film. And what advice would you give to students in the creative fields that want to pursue pro-life themes in their work?
Well, the girl with the SPUC concert, I think, I can't remember her name.
Is it Delphine? I think you mentioned earlier.
She kind of said that unless you go out there and do it, you'll never have conflict.
Yeah.
So my advice would be is to remember, we stay in a democratic country. We have got rights and we should pursue any subject as long as it's done in a way where we're not trying to get to people and trying to hurt people. We should be able to highlight things as a young person.
Yes.
And that's why it's encouraging when you see the conferences that they get that inspiration. And if they ever come to my course, I would encourage them. If they said to me, James, I want to do a video on that, fine. Because other people do videos on the other side.
Exactly.
And on other things, which is fine.
Fine too, as well, yeah.
But it seems to come to that subject, it's not fine.
Yeah, they want to censor that message as well. They don't want to get it out. And would you agree then, is it becoming harder to hold pro-life beliefs in academic circles?
I think it's always been hard and always will. Because you're going up against the mainstream. As you say, we seem to come across a tight, even in the church, not just the mainstream. You get in the church where you're quite passionate and strong, and people as if, why are you really worried about that? And you tell them why. And that's the way it's always going to be. And I think it takes a lot of courageous and brave people to be part of the SPUC and to keep encouraging other people. And yes, we'll always, because you say you're not employed as a lecturer or a teacher to because I wish I'd known the answer to this, but how many schools would you think, or universities are called, cover this subject in any way? I can't think of any, ever. I can't ever think of my grandkids come home or my kids saying, oh, Dad, we spoke about this today.
Yeah, I don't know either. But do you think, have there been any students that have changed their views upon meeting you, upon chatting with you in the college?
I'm not sure if they've changed their views, but obviously I don't withhold what I think.
Yeah.
And I do it in a way where, as we say, use wisdom. You're not trying to beat them over the head, but I believe you have to get people to think at least. So when they come up with these views, I'll say, well, what about this?
Yeah, have you thought about this?
And
You're sowing the seed, basically.
Have you ever seen the development of a baby in the womb? No? Well, why are you so adamant that that's the right way? And then if you say, do you want me to show you something? But they'll not watch it. Or they'll not want to see that after 18, 20 weeks it's a baby.
Yeah.
And you'll find most of all, like most things, is ignorance. And I'm not against, if I was a young person and I went with the flow, it's hard to go against the
grain.
I know that. And so we have to be very gentle and very loving and kind, and to show them that we're not your enemies. We're sticking up for it. And it's ironic because this might relate to me, but you watch all the news and all the stuff we see, and it's terrible people dying in Palestine and all that, but nobody ever mentions like 40 million babies on the mainstream.
Yeah, the other genocide.
Why is that? Why is it they don't say, yes, it's a woman's right maybe to do this, but you know, but we're now seeing the consequences of that, where they're now saying the population is going down and they're now starting to worry.
Yeah.
So that's one of the consequences. We're now seeing the fact that we're getting rid of babies so quickly and so easily, and now they're starting to go, oh.
Yeah, and how did you react to the decriminalisation vote that happened there?
It's very sad that but obviously we live in a democratic country and people vote, and those people who vote, but we believe you're always held accountable for your actions, whether it's now or whether it's later, and that's very sad. It's very sad to think that. And it was a short debate. It wasn't really long enough for that topic, but it doesn't seem to be, for some reason, as if it's a serious subject. Maybe because I'm passionate about it, and sometimes you can do that. You think everyone should know about it.
Yes, yeah. So it's especially sad since 95% of the population don't want this. Like,
Yes.
the public do not want this, and yet after 46 minutes it was decided upon in Parliament, which is insane. I think people need to realise that. So yeah, it's awful sad to see.
We also understand with MPs that they've got jobs, they've got families, they've got all these things, so they would have to give up a lot.
Yeah.
But being a Christian, it's a bit different, because you serve God and you believe God and you think God gives you the Holy Spirit to guide you. So I understand that. I'm not judging them. I'm just saying I wouldn't vote that way. And I can't get into their minds and hearts and think, why would they do that? And hopefully it's not just because they feel they have to do it because they're pressured. Some people do vote with her, and it's not till later on, maybe years later on, they look back and think, oh, why did I do that?
And speaking of the students earlier, you were trying to show them videos and they didn't want to see it. Is it worthwhile that SPUC do videos similar to that, showing the humanity of the unborn? What do you think?
Definitely. And it'd be nice to see how the SPUC apply to come to some of the open days in the college. Would they be allowed?
Yeah.
That'd be something
We
to
could
be
do that.
interesting. And
Yeah, because we have the Alma Mater Fund that is specifically for colleges and universities all across the UK that gives help to women in crisis pregnancy. So that's a route that we could go down if we were to be in your college or campus. So we do look after our students. So perhaps that could be another way of going about it.
yes, well, hopefully, and I think that obviously resources and the amount of people at work, and to be able to do all this, you need people, obviously, who are talented and skilled. And it's a subject where you really have to be really careful.
Yeah.
Because as we've seen, you go into college, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you have to be ready for
prepared
that fight. Yeah. And you mentioned Delphine earlier, that you watched her video, and it was encouraging to see so many people as well at the youth conference. Does that give you hope for the future, seeing so many young people as well?
I think there's a song we sing in the church, God will find a way, or
Yeah.
make a way.
Yeah.
We always see God at work in these things. You watch these conferences and you think, praise God for that. Praise God for that young woman standing up there, putting herself in the limelight, knowing what could happen, and then all those young people. Being older, we get so much encouragement from them.
Yes, it gives you kind of
inspire
life
us,
again.
and hopefully they know that. Hopefully people tell them that we watch and because sometimes, if you be honest, sometimes you're fearful, sometimes you're apprehensive, and then you watch something like, you think, oh, right, get yourself out again and let's go on with the fight.
Yeah, I think in America as well, there's a big pushback against cancel culture, and yeah, do you think it's happening here as well?
Not yet in Scotland, because obviously we've got that law passed about a man is a man, a woman's a woman. The Scottish government seem to still be fighting that, and we've now got that women's group who are now taking action against that. No, it'll be slow, but I think eventually it'll come round. But we need to get back to our youth. We need to recapture the youth at an early age to tell them no, because they've been indoctrinated now for so long. I've had it with my grandkids coming home, like, oh wow, you learnt that in school. Yeah. And if you think about this, and if we can't identify what a man is or a woman, what kind of society have we now become? That we can't, you think, well, how did we ever get there in the first place?
It's a good question, yeah. I think that's, yeah, a deeper question as well. I think it's scary to see this the scale of how crazy it's gotten. But what can we do to give young people confidence in their pro-life views?
Well, I think you're doing a lot just now. And obviously, we believe in encouraging people, informing people. What we've seen at the last conference is perfect, saying, no, you're within your rights to say this and do this. Because you are made to feel as if you have no rights.
Yes, that's a good point, actually.
And the young people are going about like that thinking, oh, I'm too scared, I can't. You go, no, this is a democratic country. You've got the right and the freedom. As long as you're not obviously trying to stir people up and try to get at people, we do it in love. Everything we should ever do is in love, and we know that.
So true.
And that's that's the main thing that the young people know, that they've also got us to support them.
Yeah.
Because we can go back to me and yourself when we first met, when we stood outside the hospital, and the venom and the anger and the spitting of people.
Yeah, we got a lot.
And we were just standing there with a sign.
Yeah, offering resources.
Doing nothing.
Praying.
Which was all right.
Yeah, which was legal at the time.
See those people? Nothing happened.
Yeah.
So the police and authorities need to think about the reverse. If they're going to push us 200 yards down the road, what about the opposite side when people are breaking the law and being vile and that? Why do they get away with so much? But when people are standing there peacefully, which it's our right to do and which has been fought for over 2 wars, that they now say you can't even pray in silence. What? Yeah. How did we get to that stage?
Exactly, it's so far gone. And just going back to the young people's point earlier, how can we get young people together, like networking again for the pro-life message, and maybe perhaps those of faith, perhaps those with no faith, to come together and do great work for the unborn?
Well, I think having watched that conference, they're all sitting in front of you. Those young people have to be, and I believe they're doing that, they have to be the way forward.
Yes.
Where they go back to their friends. Because when I was young, my biggest influence was my friends.
Yeah.
I didn't disobey my parents, but I would listen to my friends, and I'd do things I shouldn't have done with my friends. But my point is, who do we listen when we're young? Someone comes in and they're the same age as you, they're compassionate, and they're thinking about doing what they're going to do, and you say, do you know there's a different way? What do you mean? Well, I'm part of the SPUC and we offer... Oh, I didn't realise that. Yeah. And so that's I think that's the most strongest way we can do it. Obviously, keep putting the message out and keep doing our little silent protests. But we seem to be getting, for some reason, the backlash against that is as if we're these bad people, we're these people that... But we in our hearts think we're doing the opposite. We're saying, no, we're trying to save lives.
Trying to protect lives here.
Protect lives.
Not take lives. Yeah.
And the question I would always ask is, why is it you've got to a stage where you can shout out a car at people, but you don't think about what you've done about half an hour before that? Yeah. So where's that mindset come from, that people are like that? That they just... And the other thing is, we seem to have lost the art of conversation and debate about it. Well, I'd like the man to park his car and come over and say, would you mind, I really hate what you're doing. And you go, well, I will apologise for that, but the reason we're doing it is this. But you don't get that.
You don't get that, yeah. You just get shut down or bullied into silence almost as well. And what ways, what messages can we share that would help fund, the pro-life message?
Well, I think we keep doing what we're doing. We keep doing it in a way where, as you say, we're not against people. And people got to realise we're not against you or your choice. Yeah. Well, that's the opposite. You can still go through what you're going to go through, which we don't agree with, but there's another way. Yes. There's also another way. What do you mean there's another way? Well, see, even if you don't want the baby, have it and give it to somebody else.
Yeah. And so what kind of content then would you like to see the pro-life movement produce?
Thinking about that, you need to think about where we're aiming at.
What's our goal?
If we're allowed it in schools, I don't think we are. I don't think... The message would obviously be aimed at the younger people as they grow up to realise that how precious life is.
Yeah, we go into schools now. We have Emma going into schools giving talks, yeah.
Well, that's where you start. because that's obviously if universities are really important where we've got to put stuff together, as I said, to show these young people who are sometimes, as we know, well, I was a teenager a long time ago, you don't really know how to act, you cling on to your friends and you're afraid to go against people.
Peer pressure, yeah.
But it's to show people, and I know you've told me this before in the past, where when you reach out to these people, they're kind of amazed sometimes that, I've found someone who is not like them, they're different.
Yes.
And to realise, and also say that we'll also back you up, we're not going to bring you on board and leave you alone. So you've not just got me personally talking to you, I've got people behind me who also, and it's always about support. And young people need to hear that, and that message that, yes, I know your university professors mocking and talking and saying it in a way, but he's just been foolish. Because most good professors don't talk, or they're not anti-stuff, they'll debate things. So sadly in universities, what we see most in America, it's really the professors and that who are passing the message on to. So we need to tackle that way, where if professors are doing that, or if colleges or universities, they have to be challenged by law. They can't do that. You can't bully and threaten your students, or the people come, they've got their own views and their own opinions. And I'll give you an example. In my class, anyone can come to my class and have any view at all.
Yeah, you're pro freedom of speech, but I think there's a problem with freedom of speech in Scotland and
I defend it.
England.
And just say you were sitting there, you were the girl sitting over the class going, I think all babies should be killed. I don't agree with it. But if I found someone starting to bully, but I would be the first to stop that.
Yes,
But the kids are not getting that at uni. They're feeling isolated and alone, and then they're looking around as if, well, I better just
can't do this. Yeah.
And that's something we need to use the laws and the rights that we've got to peacefully, quietly and lawfully challenge these things, and that's the main thing we're facing.
We're facing like the hypocrisy of it all, because some views are allowed and some aren't. They're just dismissed, and you're kind of bullied into compliance. You can't put your head above the pulpit or you'll just be shot down. And like you said, you would defend someone who's been bullied, even if they disagreed with you, because I think, and that's the most respectful way, and just being a decent person. I think it doesn't cost a lot to be a decent human being, but I think for some they struggle a lot, and I think it can be a power struggle as well for them wanting to be the bully at the end of the day. So it's about
and that's I think that's the main way we could encourage young people. You've got the right to talk. You've got the right to say, would you mind explaining that a bit more to me?
Please,
And what you'll normally find is they actually don't know what they're talking about, the majority.
Yes.
Yes, and you go, they'll go, that's the way I think, and you go, but why do you think that way? And I know this comes from God, that this is where you do these things, and then they'll go away and realise, why do I think like that? And sometimes you'll find they'll come back a week later and say, listen, I've been thinking about it and I'm really sorry. And then that's the dialogue starting.
That's where you'd have the conversation. And if you could look ahead in 10 years' time, if you had a crystal ball, don't want to say that as a joke now, but if you could see in 10 years' time, where do you think the pro-life movement would be?
I think with the people that I now know in the pro-life movement, there's a passion within them. There's a passion within them for what we see as a wrong. And yes, will there be conflict? Will there be all the stuff we're facing? I'll always be there. But what we're going to see is we're not going to go away. And I believe we'll keep learning. We'll keep learning as an organisation and a group, and we'll keep growing. But we also have to make sure God's with us.
Well, thank you so much, James, for your time today.
Thank you for watching SPUC TV. If you're enjoying our content, please subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. 84-year-old British actress and Harry Potter star Miriam Margolyes has recently prompted debate by voicing her wish to pursue a medically assisted suicide should her health deteriorate. Margolyes, whose medical conditions include spinal stenosis, osteoporosis and mobility challenges, said that if she were to lose speech, suffer incontinence or endure severe cognitive decline, She would want to be, in her words, put down, rather than endure a slow deterioration. The comments coincide with the broader national discussion around assisted suicide, prompted by Liam MacArthur's assisted suicide bill in the Scottish Parliament, Kim Leadbeater's terminally ill adults end-of-life bill, which is currently on its second reading in the House of Lords. While empathising with the fear of suffering, it is essential to affirm the sanctity of life, even, or rather especially, when someone is undergoing physical or psychological suffering. Every person, no matter their physical or mental capacity, possesses inherent dignity and the right to compassionate care. Instead of opting for death, society should strive to alleviate the suffering of those nearing the end of life through high-quality palliative care, which is currently severely underfunded and undervalued by our political establishment. SBUC has long advocated for better palliative care and will continue to do so, irrespective of the outcome of these assisted suicide bills. A groundbreaking legal strategy has emerged within the pro-life movement in Texas. Fathers, and in many cases ex-partners, are now stepping forward to seek justice after their unborn child was aborted without their knowledge or consent. In Texas, where the law allows wrongful death suits for unborn children, fathers are taking action against providers of abortion pills, especially those shipping them across state lines. Spearheaded by attorney Jonathan F. Mitchell, these lawsuits aim to safeguard the dignity of unborn life and to honour the voices of men who wish to protect their children. One such case involves Jerry Rodriguez, who is pursuing legal action against his girlfriend's family and a California physician for allegedly orchestrating 2 abortions without his involvement or approval. Rodriguez represents not only himself, but also current and future fathers who believe they deserve a say where their unborn child's welfare is at stake. By challenging interstate abortion pill shipments, this pro-life movement could potentially pierce so-called shield laws in pro-abortion states that have shielded providers from accountability. Commenting on the case, SBUC CEO John Deegan said, "This legal action from fathers points to the truth that males, whether grieving fathers, as in this case, or male unborn children, are directly impacted by abortion. Their very existence also points to the truth that abortion is a human rights issue, not simply a women's rights issue, as our detractors would have us believe." Ellie Goldstein, a 23-year-old model and actress with Down syndrome, is making history as the first contestant with Down syndrome to appear on the main series of Strictly Come Dancing. Described as a trailblazing model, actor, and influencer, Ellie set another first in 2023 as the first model with Down syndrome to appear on the cover of Vogue fashion magazine. She also partnered with Mattel when they launched their first ever Barbie with Down syndrome. When talking about joining the cast, Ellie said, "I'm absolutely over the moon. It's a show I've loved watching for so long, and the chance to now be a part of it feels like a dream." In a culture where 90% of babies diagnosed with Down syndrome in the womb are aborted, Ellie's story is a powerful witness for life. She is living proof of what society misses out on when we deny the most vulnerable their right to be born. Another shocking case in America is exposing the dark reality of abortion drugs. In Illinois, a 31-year-old man, Emerson Evans, has been charged with intentional homicide of an unborn child after prosecutors say he secretly ended his girlfriend's pregnancy without her consent. Court documents show the woman was 7 weeks pregnant when he administered abortion drugs to her without her knowledge. She later suffered heavy bleeding and was rushed to the hospital, where doctors confirmed her child had died. Police say he confessed, admitting he bought the drugs online for just $50. He now faces 2 counts of intentional homicide of an unborn child, each carrying a minimum of 20 years in prison. The judge in the case described his actions as deliberate, disturbing, and a gross violation of the mother's autonomy. This follows closely to a case we reported on recently of a US Marine accused of secretly spiking his partner's hot chocolate with abortion pills, killing their unborn daughter. 2 different cases, but the same pattern. Abortion drugs used as weapons against women and their children. For the pro-life movement, the message could not be clearer. Chemical abortion is not safe, not empowering, and not about choice. It is a threat to women and the destruction of innocent human life. That's SBUC TV News, bringing to light what others hide.
The existence of buffer zones in the UK through Public Spaces Protection Orders, which establish buffer zones around abortion clinics in England and Wales, and the Abortion Services Safe Access Zones Act, which does the same in Scotland, and finally the Abortion Services Safe Access Zones Act Northern Ireland, have between them taken a sledgehammer to every pillar of free speech ever constructed. They're designed not to curb free speech, but to eviscerate it. These laws also demolish a number of other hard-won civil liberties, including the right of freedom of expression, assembly, thought, conscience and religion. They have created, for the first time in the history of these islands, thought crimes, where a perpetrator needn't act or even encourage others to act, but need only think negatively about the actions of others to fall foul of the law. They are egregious and grotesque pieces of legislation in every way. I'm Peter Kearney, and this is Viewpoint. So how did we get to this Orwellian situation where our thoughts and our conscience are policed by the state? Where cherished freedoms are simply voted away by intellectual pygmies masquerading as politicians? Among the most important freedoms these laws have set on fire and destroyed is freedom of religious expression. Something which we used to care about and something the international community certainly once cared about. To understand what is meant by religious freedom, we need to look at the standards set by Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It states, "Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion. This right includes freedom to change his or her religion or belief, and freedom, either alone or in community with others and in public or private, to manifest his or her religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship and observance." Yet across the UK, there has been a subtle move away from freedom of religious expression, as guaranteed by Article 18, towards freedom of worship. This climate has been created and expanded over 15 years and has laid the groundwork for the restrictions on religious expression inherent in our buffer zone legislation. Let me give you 2 examples. On the 16th of September 2010, in an address by the Queen in Edinburgh to Pope Benedict, she said,
"We hold that freedom to worship is at the core of our tolerant and democratic society."
That decision not to speak of freedom of religion was glaring, conspicuous and depressing. A pale shadow of the actual words in Article 18 to manifest religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship and observance. Now, there's no doubt these weren't the Queen's own words. Rather, they were those of her government. At the time, the Conservative Lib Dem coalition led by David Cameron. The Queen's words on that day were barely noticed. They certainly weren't reported on, but they marked a moment when the UK government formally and deliberately began to diminish and dilute our human rights. The second example is from 2022, when the UK Supreme Court considered whether a buffer zone bill was within the legislative competence of the Northern Ireland Assembly. The Scottish Government took a close interest in these proceedings and the question of legislative competence, and they sent their senior law officer, the Lord Advocate, to London, where she offered the justices of the Supreme Court a novel perspective on silent vigils. Dorothy Bain, KC, informed them that
I do wonder about the making a difference between silent attendance outside the clinic as opposed to one where there's overt, violent type of conduct that we could characterise it as. And what I said yesterday about that was it may very well be that silent vigil or silent prayer is just as concerning, just as worrying, just as psychologically damaging to a young woman attending at the clinic as would those shouting abuse at her, it is reasonable to say that we shouldn't essentially put that in a separate character and say that will always be something that should be treated differently. I think it very much depends on the facts of the case. And it may very well be, as I say, that that sort of protest, engaging in that way, silent prayer, almost standing in judgment, is far more damaging to the young woman than hurling names and abuse at her.
Although tellingly, no one has ever been arrested outside an abortion facility in Scotland for breach of the peace, harassment or intimidation. This didn't appear to place any onus on Scotland's Lord Advocate to explain what violent types of conduct she had in mind. Although 12 years apart, these two moments in our legal and constitutional history marked a period of concerted action to curtail and limit religious freedom, and particularly the ability of individuals to manifest religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship and observance. And the ultimate manifestation of that, so far at least, has been our various buffer zone laws. Peaceful protest is, or once was, a cornerstone of our democracy. Silent vigils have tended to be considered benign and harmless, a near universal consensus accepting that they occupy the shallow end of the protest pool, while other tactics like verbal abuse, physical violence, and even killing your opponents usually were viewed more seriously. Not anymore. The Scottish Lord Advocate's claim that a woman about to have her child aborted could be psychologically damaged by merely seeing someone engaged in silent prayer, and her proposed course of action, namely banning, arresting, and if necessary, even incarcerating the silent supplicants, while treating them not as protesters shouting abuse, but altogether more dangerous and menacing actors, will strike most people as entirely absurd and deeply alarming. Can you imagine other scenarios where these types of legal principles might apply? Imagine a football match where the aggressive and angry fans on each side, rather than hurling abuse or even missiles at one another, just glare silently. Well, the police would be obliged to round them all up and arrest them for inflicting psychological abuse on their opponents. It's unimaginable, isn't it? More seriously, a ban on peaceful, prayerful vigils must now surely, in the interests of equity, extend to other public gatherings at other locations if they involve activities some people might find morally objectionable. Silent peace vigils outside the Trident nuclear submarine base at Faslane on the River Clyde have been a fixture for decades. Whether they upset or alarm the staff entering or leaving the base has never been tested by a court. Neither has legislation ever been proposed to ban them. Yet such vigils do explicitly attempt to influence those who witness them. But society is content to permit them, even if some of those who witness them feel demonised or pressurised or even just inconvenienced by them. We let them happen. And we do so because Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, also proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in 1948, is explicit. Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference. It adds that everyone has the right to seek, receive and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. The fact that no other vigils or gatherings have been targeted or prevented is a measure of how deeply hypocritical so many politicians are, claiming to support freedom of speech while ruthlessly suppressing it for some. The irony, of course, is that there never was a public order or criminal problem around abortion clinics. Pro-life campaigners are peaceful and law-abiding. So buffer zones are not so much a sledgehammer being used to crack a nut, they're more like a sledgehammer being wielded against an invisible nut. That's all we have time for this week. If you enjoyed the show, then please like, comment and subscribe for weekly videos. And if you have any stories you think we should cover, then please email us at the address on screen or in the description. Thank you for watching.